Okay, so we are in recording. So everyone, hello. My name is Clarissa Tejeda, and I serve as the Assistant Director of Career Services here at the Mays Center at A&M San Antonio. I'm so glad you're able to join us on this next series for the Mays Executive Leadership Webinar Series. Today we're talking about a really exciting topic that I think is very timely in this time. It's one of those that it's always kind of a challenge to kind of figure out how to really stand out when you're applying for that job, or how to get that attention of that HR professional. I know Glenn is going to provide some wonderful tips and tricks on just best practices that you all should hopefully implement in your search. Again, go ahead and go to the next slide, Glenn, for me. Couple of housekeeping reminders. So everyone is muted on their way into the session just to make sure that we don't have any feedback in the background when our presenter is speaking. To help support this, so we do allow for the Q&A actually to be in the chat box. So if you do have questions throughout the session, please go ahead and utilize that, and we'll be filtering them throughout the session. Also, Glenn always allows time to answer your questions near the end, so don't worry, we will get to them during this session. And again, just a reminder that this will be uploaded on the Tamusa Mays YouTube channel within 24 to 48 hours. Typically, we have it within a 24-hour period, so just FYI, be on the lookout for that. So I will leave it to you, Glenn. Have a wonderful session. I'm really excited to hear your advice.
Thank you, Clarissa. Always a pleasure to work with you. Well, one of the most important things is I hope you can see that what we're doing here as employers and working with your career services centers, we're keeping engaged during this challenging time. Some of the very first calls that I had when I realized things were going to be a little bit more challenging was the career service centers from all of the institutions. Texas A&M is near and dear in my heart because we just had an externship and a Shark Tank type activity at our campus. So we are involved throughout the year, but during this challenging time, one of my most important missions was to keep connected and to help out any way I possibly can. Again, Clarissa, thank you for the introduction. My name is Glenn Errhalt. I work for Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union, and I'm actually coming up on 10 years with Randolph Brooks. Little did I think 3, 4 months ago that I most likely will be celebrating my 10th year anniversary with Randolph Brooks from my home, if you will. So, but I'm okay. We're strong. We're moving forward, and we're looking to continue to help the community. And I think those are important things. And here is one of our mission statements at Randolph Brooks: helping our members is one of those things that is truly important for us. It's behind the mission almost of everything we do. And today, during this challenging time, the credit union really is moving forward with its number one mission is people helping people. So I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you to become a more competitive candidate. So what I'm going to do through my presentation is give you some ideas that I hope that you incorporate. And I do believe that they will help you to be a more competitive candidate. First of all, I just want to say congratulations to any of you who are graduating. And I know that, what's ahead of you may be a little uncertain, but there are going to be wonderful opportunities. And if you are on this call, if you are listening in, if you are working with Clarissa and Karen Ivy, the director, and the rest of the team, you are taking those steps to move forward, to be ready to interview for that company you truly are looking for. You worked hard to get your degree. Now it's time to really incorporate and take those next steps. So today, some of the things that I think are going to be important and are always important, not just in this time, but for any time that you may be looking to develop your career if you're already an employee of an organization. Um, Things that I believe that you can do all the time to help you to build your brand. Building your brand is important. You chose to go to Texas A&M San Antonio to get the degree, to study whatever career path that you're following for a reason. Your brand is going to allow you to share those reasons. And where do you share those? You share them during your elevator pitch, and that's what we've all heard. Your elevator pitch. Bottom line, it's your mini commercial. And now, not only will you have to do that, when you run, hopefully run into somebody, and hopefully we'll get back to meeting with individuals one-on-one, face-to-face here soon. But through the virtual process, through the webinars, through through events and meetings. And there's so many different platforms out there, from WebEx to Zoom to Teams. So now it, I believe, is a little bit more challenging to demonstrate or share your mini commercial virtually. Also, some other things that are always critical and important. I know you've done a lot of research if you're on this call, is your resume. Your resume. What does it say about you? What does it include? What is a resume, and how can it help to build your brand? And your resume, if you are applying for a position, really has to tie into that job you're applying for. And you've probably heard this. Make sure that the resume you submit captures and does include the information that an employer has put on a job description. Make sure your resume is targeted towards the job that you're applying for. So again, build your brand: elevator, virtual pitch, resume, job descriptions. Those are some of the things I'm going to start talking to you about. I'll give you some tips on those. And then interviewing skills, interviewing tips. Um, I've worked with Randolph Brooks 10 years, but I did work for another employer for 15 years. And I have been so fortunate in my career to have hired, I'm going to say thousands of individuals for two wonderful companies. But I've also declined 10 times more individuals than I've hired. They all had the requirements, and they all had sort of the skills that were needed to be in the interview process. But so many times they didn't stand out, and many times they couldn't make the connection during the interview. So I'm going to give you some interviewing tips as well. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about, so if you're applying for positions today, where's the best places to look? Where are some of those areas that can help you get right in front of the recruiter, and where you can build your network? So I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then I do think it's important that there are so many different applicant tracking systems. Now, what an applicant tracking system is the system that we use to, first of all, publicize an employment opportunity that we have. And it's a system that we use to allow you to apply for our positions. They've changed in the last 25 plus years that I've been in human resources. There's more information that you provide to make the onboarding process, if you get hired, that much easier. So, but there are some critical tips that I'd like to share with you as well that will help you to maximize the application process. And then one of the other things is I want to give you sort of a view from a recruiter's point of view. So what does a recruiter do, or a hiring manager do, when they realize, hey, by the way, I've got a job available and I need to post it, I need to start recruiting for it, if you will. So let's talk about the let's talk about the elevator pitch, the job description, and the resume. All three have a significant impact on your ability to get the attention of a hiring manager and recruiter. No doubt about it. An elevator pitch is nothing more than you telling me a little bit about yourself. Also making sure that you are doing it in a very enthusiastic, positive, professional manner. So when that person walks away from this interaction that they had with you, is they know a little bit more about you. They know what you are studying and maybe what you want to do, and they have an insight into sort of your career path. The other thing is they've got an impression of you, and I'll talk about that towards the very end, but they have an impression of you. And they know how to get in contact with you. That's an elevator pitch, your mini commercial. And one of the things that I always hear is, well, how do you practice your elevator pitch? Where do I go to do that? Well, I say you practice with a friend or family member. All of you, each of you, have your phone. So if you want to practice your elevator pitch, here's a little tip. Take out your phone, give it to a friend, a family member, and have them record you doing your elevator pitch. It's sort of fun, to be honest with you. When we are doing live career development events, we break everybody up into groups and they record their elevator pitch. And then I usually walk around the room and I listen to it, and I give some guidelines and guidance. And I'm listening for the tone and inflection of your voice. And I think those things are so critical, because if you're talking with somebody via an elevator pitch or virtual, you want them to really have a better understanding of who you are. So, little tip, if you have a chance, practice recording your elevator pitch with friends or family. The most important thing about it is your baseline for improvement. So if you are going into an interview and you want to remember where you started, look at your elevator pitch. Take a few seconds just to look at it and think about the things that you can do to improve. A little fun tip that I do recommend. Now, with your resume, I've got to talk about the resume and the job description. So, a resume, everybody knows it's your history up to this point. It's what you've done. It's some of the events you've participated in. It's your employment history. It's some of the accolades, things that are critical and important to you. And I know, you hear a resume. So many people talk about, well, you can't have a resume that is more than one page. They're not going to read it. It's too much information. I sort of disagree a little bit. The more experience you have, I believe the longer your resume is going to be. But the other thing for me that is critical, and hopefully for you as well, if you have significant accomplishments, you've done volunteer work or you've worked throughout your college career, I don't want you to leave anything off your resume that tells me your story. It tells me about you. So I personally do not mind if a resume is more than one page, 2 page, 3 pages. I really don't. Because if the items that are important to you tell me what you did with these organizations, then I want you to include it. But the reason I'm okay with a resume being more than one page is because I truly believe you've got to get my attention at the very, very top of the resume. So what I teach is career objective. At the very top of the resume, I need you to tell me what you want to do with what you've done. So let's use at RBFCU, we have positions that are very, I think, popular and competitive with our college students. It's a consumer lending representative. So if you're applying for a consumer lending representative and you know the company that you're applying for, at the very top of your resume, you should have your name, your contact information, your phone number, right? At the bottom of it, it should be your career objective. Tell me what you want to do with what you've done. For example, my career objective is to obtain a consumer lending position with Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union, where I can utilize my experience, my education, and my passion for assisting others to meet the growing needs of an organization. Why do I say put the name of the company and the position? Because then you just got my attention. So if your resume is 2 or 3 pages, the fact that you put the name of an employer, yes, we do hope it's Randolph Brooks, but the fact that you put the name of the employer and the position, for me, tells the recruiting manager and the hiring manager and the recruiter that, by the way, you truly have an interest and you did something typically that others don't do. You got my attention. I'm going to keep reading. Now, I also teach on your resume to include a cover letter. So 90% of the applications that we receive at Randolph Brooks don't have a cover letter. And I know some people say, well, I don't put career objective on my resume because I include a cover letter. Well, I'm telling you, 90% of the applications we get don't have a cover letter. So if you, again, want to be a more competitive candidate, then include a cover letter. It's not a letter. It's a solid paragraph that says, this is what I've done, and this is why I want to bring what I've done to your organization. Again, cover letter. And here's the other thing. For some reason, if the hiring manager and recruiter doesn't read your cover letter, you've already included your career objective on your resume. So tell me what you want to do with what you've done, career objective, and your cover letter. And I do see many resumes that'll say summary of qualifications, profile. I just talked with a college student yesterday, and it was he started with education. Wonderful resume. The only problem is I don't know what you want to do, and that's what you have to do. Laser focus. Get to the point. What do you want to do with what you've done? Now, one of the most important things is when you're talking with a recruiter or hiring manager, there's some important things that you have to have come through. When they ask you what you want to do, everybody, for instance, somebody says, well, I have a passion for customer service. Okay, that's great. But I'm going to ask you, where did that passion come from? I want you to tell me your story. I don't want you to talk at me. I want you to talk with me. So in an interview, over the phone, face to face, I want you to talk with me. And if you talk with me, it's more of a conversation. Me as a recruiter, I try to put our and my applicants at ease as much as I possibly can. But if you can tell me the story of where your passion came from, if you can tell me the story of why you decided to go to Texas A&M San Antonio, why you decided to pursue a career or degree in business and management or marketing or IT, well, then I know you. And so when at the end we're evaluating candidates, I have a better understanding, and I'm thinking, well, I know this. I know a little bit more about this individual. You came across in a positive way, which is important, but it helps me to remember you. And so when we're evaluating candidates, it's about remembering the interview. It's about remembering you. You've got the qualifications. Now, do you fit within the organization? The last bullet point I think is critical, and there's a couple things I'm going to share with you. You always want to leave a recruiter, hiring manager, person you met on a virtual Zoom presentation or in an elevator. You always want them to leave with a first positive, memorable impression. First positive. You've got that already. You're graduating and you're going to a phenomenal school. Texas A&M San Antonio is doing great things. You work with a phenomenal career services team. So they already have a first good impression. But what are you going to do to make it memorable? Those are going to be things that you need to do. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the tips I can provide to you that will leave you and leave your recruiter and hire manager with a first positive impression. So when you apply for a position, you've got to do a couple of things. First, you've got to build your network. So where do you go to build your network? If you're on LinkedIn, and I assume most of you are on LinkedIn, if you haven't already connected with the career services team and the staff and anybody who went to Texas A&M San Antonio, well, then you haven't built your network. And I imagine, although Texas A&M is still relatively new, there's thousands of individuals that have already graduated, and maybe some that have graduated with the same career path and degree that you're getting. I would go to LinkedIn, I would post your profile, and I would post your smile. Again, it's about a first positive, memorable impression. And then if you do see somebody that pursued or attained a degree with the same passion that you have, then reach out to that person. Say, hey, I'm graduating senior, getting a degree in business management. I was wondering if I could connect with you. And why not? I think it's important. We all want to give back. This is something that I believe is special about San Antonio. So build your network for those that have already attended, maybe your high school, but definitely for sure those that have already gone to Texas A&M San Antonio and your career services team. They'll help you to get prepared. And then what will happen is there's probably organizations, if you're looking to connect with somebody in human resources, SARMA is definitely important. Maybe there's other HR professionals within other institutions. So there could be organizations that tie into your career path that you would want to connect with. Now, you can also look for employment opportunities, but I will tell you it's not, there are employment opportunities on LinkedIn, but there's not as many as you may think, if you will. But for me, LinkedIn is a great place to build your network and to see the wonderful things that are going on and how you can really contribute and participate in some of those activities. If you apply for a position, always be prepared for the phone interview. Always. And so what does that mean? Well, hopefully you've already had a few phone interviews. Hopefully now I say prepare for a phone interview. I think we all talk on the phone. It is usually the first way, even today with the challenges that we're going through, for a recruiter to reach out to you. They may send you an email, say, hey, do you mind if I call you during this time? Or if you've applied to the position and of course you put your career objective and you got the attention of the recruiter and they call you, well, you've got to be ready. You've got to know about the company. You already should have done your research. By the way, you should already have a couple questions prepared. So if you're applying for a position with whatever the company is, be prepared and be ready for a phone interview. Usually when I'm in class and I'm talking with students, at this time I always ask them, so if you've applied to a position and a recruiter is calling you, why are they calling you? And I'm going to tell you, I've called thousands of individuals in my career. The only reason I'm calling, and most recruiters and hiring managers, if you've applied, is because they want to bring you in for a interview or set up an interview virtually, if you will. The first step is that phone interview, but they've already looked at your application, they've looked at your requirements, and do you meet or qualify for the position. They want to bring you in for an interview. They want to move forward with the next step, but that next step is up to you. How do you sound over the phone? Um, those are things that are going to be important. But if you're not there to pick up the phone, right now I'm going to ask each of you, if I were to call you right now because you applied for a position with Randolph Brooks, and you're not there to pick up the phone because you're on this webinar listening to Glenn with Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union, who talks way, way too much, and there's a reason. I talk a lot because, remember, I've hired thousands and I've turned down 10 times more than I've ever hired. I talk a lot because I care. But if you're not there to pick up the phone, and you've already told your friends and family, hey, I'm applying for a position with whatever the company is, your friends and family who know that you've applied for a position, they're your number one fans, right? They want you to get that job. They can't wait to hear what happened in the next steps. Your number one marketing representative when you're applying for a position, it doesn't matter what company, is you. It's got to be you. And so I usually ask, how many of you have that electronic voicemail set up on your phone? I would say about 65 to 70% of those in the room usually raise their hand. So my next question is, does an electronic voicemail, a voicemail that isn't even set up, a voicemail that is full, is that the best you've got? Is that the best that you have as an applicant for a position to tell the recruiter or hiring manager you're truly interested? No. The best marketing representative is you. Only you and your voice can leave a first positive, memorable impression. So for those of you that have your own voice, and I say we, your career services team and RBFCU and me, we're going to challenge you to make it better. For those of you that don't have your voicemail set up with your voicemail set up after this presentation, I recommend that you set it up. For those of you that haven't checked your voicemail in a while, check it. Most importantly, after this presentation, make yourself a more competitive candidate by setting up your voicemail with your own voice. I'll give you an example. If somebody were to call me, my voicemail typically sounds something along the lines of this. Thank you for calling. Unfortunately, I'm unable to answer the call at this time. If you'd like, please leave a brief message and I'm going to get back with you just as soon as I can. Thank you so much for calling. Again, in this environment, and I know it's challenging, there's uncertainty, but when companies really start moving forward, they're going to move forward as quickly as they possibly can to turn it around. So what are you going to do to make them want to call you back? Tone, inflection, professionalism. Those are things they're looking for. Most importantly, there was a survey of hiring managers and recruiters, and it said that if a candidate did not have a voicemail set up, or if it was electronic voicemail, about 85 to 87% of the time, the hiring manager or the recruiter did what? They moved on because they weren't served. They called the right person. More than that, they're like, is this person really what we're looking for? How easy is it to set up your voicemail? Again, if you want to be a more competitive candidate, set up your voicemail. Change your voicemail. Make sure you get the recruiter and hiring manager to call you back if you're not there. And I think we all can do that. The number one question missed in an interview for me over the last 20 plus years has been this question. You're in an interview, you made it through the process, phone interview. Most every recruiter and hiring manager will ask you this: what's your 5-year goal? Or they'll ask you, what is your career objective? And how does, let's say, the consumer lending position or whatever the position is tie into your career objective? If we were in a room, I'd probably ask and get a volunteer to answer this question. When you are in a room or an interview and somebody asks you what your career objective is and how does the position that you've applied tie into your career objective, you only have one objective. If you're applying to a position, your career objective is to get the job you're in the room for. Nothing more, nothing less. Please don't tell them my career objective is to get my foot in the door. My career objective is to come into this position and really I want to move into marketing, or I want to move into management. I want to be the director, or whatever it is. Your career objective is to get the position you've applied to. Please don't step over the job that you've applied to. Please step into it. Embrace it. My career objective is to be the best consumer lending representative you've ever hired. My career objective is to do everything I did while in college and in my other positions, to meet the needs of the company. So my contributions will be recognized, and I'll have a chance to stay and grow within your organization. Stay and grow, not stay and be the director, not stay and be the manager. No, because if the manager's in the room, you just told them, hey, by the way, I'm after your job. They probably could take care of that pretty quickly. So again, interview for the position you're in the room for. Don't step over it, embrace it, step into it. The next thing, and this sort of talks about the environment that we're in, be prepared for a video interview. What does that mean? Well, remember your elevator pitch, practice on your phone. Very simple to do. Sometimes employers and recruiters may even call you and set up an interview, and maybe your phone is the best point of access because you're doing something. Practice on your computer. Maybe practice with somebody via Zoom. Eliminate distractions. So if you know you've got an interview and you know what time and what day it's going to be, well, then I would let your family know that, by the way, hey, I've got an interview between 12:30 and 1:30. Just want to let you know what I'm really interested in this position. So please minimize some of the distraction and the noise. Maybe look at your background. I think those things are important. Um, Make sure the lighting and everything looks good, if you will. But also, one of the most important thing I feel is to dress for the interview. Make sure that you take the time to demonstrate initiative. And for men, maybe it is a suit, maybe it is a tie, because that shows initiative. And if other applicants that may interview don't do that, maybe they're in baseball hat, or maybe they haven't really dressed up or anything along those lines. Okay, that's okay. But what are you going to do to get the attention and to be a more competitive candidate? Again, treat it just like a normal interview, minimize distraction, make sure you know what's behind you. I think those are important things. Look at me. Behind me, I've got RBFCU, my favorite color and my favorite company. But again, for you, represent yourself, minimize distractions. Um, if you are applying for a position in a company, you should already have done your research. You should already have a couple questions prepared, because I will tell you, in every single one of the interviews I've ever done, the end of the interview, I always open up for questions. And I will. If you have any questions for me after end of this presentation, please don't hesitate to ask those questions. Or if you need to contact me, you'll find that my door is always open, and I'll have my contact information. But at the end of interviews, all the time, I say, well, that's all the questions I have. What questions do you have for me? Well, here's the thing. If if you've been doing your work, you've read about the company. I always say questions that I love to answer as a recruiter and a hiring manager is, can you tell me a little bit more about the company? Can you tell me a little bit more about the community support that your company provides? Can you tell me a little bit more about the benefits? Why do you enjoy working for the company? Have a couple strong questions written down, and but have them and ask them why, because it shows your interest in the company, and it shows that, and it gives hiring managers and recruiters an opportunity to sell you again on the company, and maybe even sell themselves. I always love to talk about the benefits of RBFCU. I think we have some of the best benefits of any employer in San Antonio, for sure. Medical, dental, and vision, day one of employment. We have a very competitive 401k plan, health and wellness program. We give back to the community, generous paid time off. I want to tell you about those things because I'm very grateful, because I do have those wonderful benefits. So again, have questions, give the recruiter a chance to know that you are truly interested, and talk about the benefits, because those are critical things for organizations. Um, the other thing I'm going to say is practice interviewing. With who? Who do you practice interviewing? Friends and family, because this really ties into my most important question and my most important point, if you will, is I talked about being real, telling me your story. Don't talk at me, talk with me. And I do believe that friends and family who know you best know when you are sincere and you're believable and they know when you've done your homework. So what I'm asking you to do is, yes, practice with career services. Yes, practice with other employers. But if you really want to get in the right frame of mind, so your tone and inflection and the honesty in your voice comes through, you got to interview with friends and family. And why not? Why not have friends and family help you to take that next step? Most importantly, they will help you to sound and stay real. Um, so hopefully those are some of the tips that will help you to be a more competitive candidate when you are going through the interview process. There's one other question I do want to share with you that I do think is important. You may get a question about what's your career objective, but they're also going to ask you, um, somebody asked me not long ago, so when do I talk about compensation? Well, let the recruiter and hiring manager bring that up, and they will. They have to. Everybody has to meet at some point to make sure what we're offering is what you're looking for. So do your research on compensation. There's so many places that you can find it online: salary.com, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Indeed. But you also have to take it with a grain of salt. So what I say is have a range, find a range, and make sure it's within the range of the position you're applying for. If somebody were to ask me my salary expectation, I would say, well, based on my research, my understanding, this position pays between $15 an hour and $25 an hour. But this is exactly the position I'm looking for. So I am negotiable. Can you tell me about the wonderful benefits that your company has? Twice in an interview through your career objective and what this position means to you. You've told them it's this job. You told them that you did your research. You told them to stop looking because you're the one that they need to hire. So twice, you've got to be able to do that. The other thing I would share with you is where to look for positions. And I think the most important thing is you've got to look at opportunities. And some of them are LinkedIn. We've talked a little bit about that. Um, Use your network. College job boards, I do think, are important. And then your handshake, those are going to be absolutely, you'll find a lot of employment opportunities out there, but the number one places I think will be with the Texas Workforce Commission. Indeed is still the number one website for employment opportunities. Um, I have a soft spot in my heart for the Texas Workforce Commission, and one of the main reasons is because when I got laid off 10 years ago through the recession, I found my job at RBSU through the Texas Workforce Commission. So please take a look at that. And many employers are required to post their positions there. The other thing I will share with you is Indeed. Indeed is a great place to find employment opportunities. What you have to do is look for positions that are sponsored, because this is where you know that companies who are getting free postings from Indeed, um, they will sponsor jobs because they can't be filled. So Indeed built their brand during the recession 10 years ago and today remains the number one website for employment opportunities. So please, Indeed.com, but know what you're looking for. Job fairs. Wow, virtual job fairs are taking off, no doubt about it. I've seen a lot of them starting to take place. And in-person job fairs, I do believe they will come back. But if you're going to any of these, what you have to do is to make sure that you've done your research. The number one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to you don't you don't want to make sure that you ask this question: what types of position are you hiring for? Hello, there we go.
Okay, there
So
you are.
thank you. So make sure that when you go to a job fair, make sure that you've done your research. The number one thing you don't want to do is to go to a job fair, virtual or face to face, and say, what types of jobs are you hiring for? You can't do that. You want to be a more competitive candidate. So what you have to do is you have to have already known. By the way, some companies don't take resumes. So you have to let them know, Hey, I've already applied for this position. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? Critical thing to do. Again, what are you going to do to stand out? What are you going to do to get their attention? Already apply for a position before you go to a job fair, if you possibly can. So the applicant tracking systems that we use as organizations are critical and important to our onboarding process, and they've changed. So there's some really popular ones: Brass Ring. Um, the other one is Workday. That's what we use. In fact, I'll tell you, Workday is a very popular applicant tracking system. We use it at Randolph Brooks. USA uses it. I believe Accenture, um, SWBC. It continues to be this growing applicant tracking system. So, but what happens if you go to this applicant tracking system, and for us, if you see two of the same positions, well, we can only consider you for the position that you've applied to. So what you have to do is you have to apply to both. If you see two of the same positions that you're interested in, you've got to apply to both. That's just the way you work. And in fact, I will tell you that if there's a company you're interested in, make sure you go back and visit their website, because we will start moving forward quickly with adding new positions. And again, we can only consider you for those positions that you've applied to. Interview life cycle is something I'm going to touch on as well in the point of view of a recruiter. So, applicant tracking system, it's where we post our job description, the requirement, and questions that we may ask you during the application process. Again, when you do apply for these positions, be ready, because if you apply early in the process, what I mean by that, if you can tell, and usually these applicant tracking systems will tell you when the position was posted, if you have applied within the first 2 or 3 days, maybe in the first week, your application will definitely be at the top. And for some companies, if they get, oh my gosh, 30, 40, 60, 80 in some of these positions, well, they can bring down the posting, if you will. But if you apply early, you can almost guarantee that the hiring manager or recruiter is going to see your application. Again, we've talked about applying for more than one position. In fact, let's say you applied for one position one week and then they post another position, the same position that you were interested in, apply to it every single time. Um, Review your application for accuracy. Some of our systems will do that. And in fact, we will ask that you can upload your resume and a cover letter. Some systems don't allow you to upload more than one document. So, what I would say as a recommendation, when you upload your cover letter and your resume, include it all in one document. Your cover letter first, page one, your resume, page 2 or 3, or whatever that is, but include them all together as one document. And then make sure you go back to the applicant or the employer's website frequently. Critical and important. So, the interview life cycle. A recruiter gets the application. The company says, we need this new position. The recruiter gets a requisition. They look at it. They make sure they've got the job description and the requirements. And then what they do is they will load it to our applicant tracking system as a new position. And the neat thing about it is when we post our positions on our Workday platform, it automatically goes to Indeed. So we don't have to post it on Indeed. It automatically goes there, which is pretty good. Now, the applicant tracking system and a recruiter, if they're recruiting and hiring for certain positions, it's an ongoing process. I guarantee you every day when they come in, depending on how many requisitions they have, what they're doing is going and looking at applicants, new candidates to the position. So you've got to really do that. Don't just apply to one position and say, okay, I'm done. I don't have to do that. No, you have to continue to do that, because it's an ongoing process. Um, Again, we can only consider you for the positions that you apply to. When the recruiter posts the position and they start looking at applicants, they're not waiting. If they see a competitive candidate, somebody they want to talk to, they're moving forward and they're calling. They're making those phone calls. Remember, get ready for the phone call, get ready for the phone interview. And then ultimately, if they're calling, it's because they want to bring you in for a department interview. I would say the first contact is usually the recruiter. The second contact is usually the recruiter and hiring manager, and maybe just the department manager, if you will. And I would say in this platform, in this environment, it's probably going to be that video interview until there's more certainty with things as they move forward. once all the interviews are done and they interview candidates, and maybe they have a set of 3, 4, 5 competitive candidates, then they're going to review the notes. They're going to review the applicants. They're going to review what they remember about the applicant, and make sure that everything meets the compensation, the requirements, and then they're going to make a selection. And they'll probably rate the candidates, if you will, and go with their number one candidate. And they'll talk about that. There's usually a lot of discussion about that. And then if they do make a selection, then they'll make an offer. And again, be ready, understand what the offer is, maybe ask a few more questions about the benefits. Some companies, I will say, I know at RBFCU, we always look to make the best offer we possibly can. And we always talk about the benefits. And if we agree on the offer and the compensation and the position, and you accept, we may make the offer. Any company, they may make the offer, but only you get to seal the deal. If you say yes, I want to move forward, then we'll move forward through the background check, and we'll begin the process. And usually with our BFCU, we do employment, education, credit, and criminal history, and we do a drug screen as well. And then once we have everything, then we'll get back with you, determine a date to hire, and then we start the onboard process. And with our applicant tracking systems, it's able to expedite it, especially in this virtual uh, environment that we are in. So that talks a little bit more about the applicant tracking system and the interview life cycle for a recruiter. So we've talked about a lot. There's a lot of information that I've shared with you. Please don't hesitate to ask questions. The other thing I will share with you is I can't guarantee that after you listen to the information I've shared with you that you'll get that first job that you apply to. I can't do that. I wish I could be in every one of your interviews. But I do guarantee this: if you do incorporate some of the things I've shared with you, and you take that next step, that I guarantee you will be a more competitive candidate for employment opportunities. Thank you all for taking the time to be a part of this presentation. Congratulations on moving forward in the process. And the other thing, Clarissa, I usually say this: don't listen to anything I just shared with you. Please don't listen to anything, right? Because if you only listen to this presentation or any of the presentation that your career services team is putting together, if you're just listening, hmm, then all that it is good conversation. If you don't take that next step, if you don't change your voicemail, if you don't update your career objective in that cover letter, and you don't apply the way we've shared with you, then all we had is a good conversation, nothing more, nothing less. The next steps are up to you. Thank you. And so with that, any questions?
So we did receive some questions in the chat. The first one is about the dashboard once a candidate actually applies. Is
Okay.
there a suggested amount of time that a candidate should be checking that? Is that tracked in any way? How do you suggest they kind of handle that time period?
Yeah, so here it is. The recruiter, if you're applying for the position, the recruiters are trying to fill it as quickly as they possibly can.
Mhm.
So to expedite it is on the recruiter side. But if you are truly interested, I would say go back every couple of days, because I know a lot of companies put positions on hold, but when things get back to normal, they'll start adding positions all the time. And remember, we can only consider you for those positions that you've applied to. So I would go back every couple of days, no doubt about
The next one we have is that this individual's been in the interview stage for about a month. What's the average timeline to expect a phone call? And then also, does this
it. Mhm.
maybe depend on the industry that they're applying for, say government versus civilian?
I absolutely think so. I know that if you're applying for definitely government positions, the background check, security check is significantly longer, if you will. It, and I've heard sometimes up to 6 months, 9 months. It really depends, but that's probably pushing it for outside of the government, if you will. I would say 3 weeks to a month, if you will. Again, we're trying to reduce the time. That's why our applicant tracking system and our onboarding systems are more effective and efficient. Sometimes it depends on the background check and definitely the type of position you're applying to. So it differs between both of those organizations.
Great. Next one we have is how would you fit a portfolio of your work with a resume?
I've seen it different ways. If it's a marketing or communication, I've seen individuals that have had a portfolio virtual, if you will. So there was maybe a website or something along those lines that is accessible to the hiring manager or recruiter to look at their portfolio of work. I've definitely seen that more in a graphic designer or a marketing representative, if you will.
Another, I think, really insightful one right now is when is it too late to apply for a posting? I see a lot of the 30 plus days on Indeed, especially since many companies are on a freeze.
I love that question. Here's the thing. So if it's been posted 30 days, it means that they haven't found the right person. And if you haven't applied, apply to it. Get the alert set up. Go back to Indeed as often as you possibly can. So I applied to those. I would apply to those positions that were just posted. And if there's a position that's 30 days out, it means that they haven't brought it down, but they haven't found the right candidate, if you will. So why not? It doesn't hurt.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Another really great one are what are some of the areas of growth at your company? And then what type of positions are high in demand at Randolph Brooks?
Absolutely. Right now, high in demand are going to be compliance, risk management, IT positions, graphic designers, programmers, if you will, and some of our and it makes sense. Some of our customer service positions and our branch operations. We were impacted with making sure that our employees were safe and secure and handling the responsibility. So many of us have moved to home, if you will, and I am. And sometimes there are those distractions, no matter what you do, right? But I would say our customer service and I would say consumer lending representatives, our member services representatives, some of our marketing positions. And with this change, I do think that many companies are looking at what are the new norms, if you will. So are there going to be more employers working from home? So you will most likely see employers changing some of the requirements of those positions. So as a applicant, what are you doing to increase your resume? Are you putting that you've gone through Zoom presentations? Have you interviewed in Zoom or WebEx or Teams? You need to start including some of those virtual platforms to let hiring managers and recruiters know that you're comfortable with it, if you will. So customer service, branch operations, more to come as we all start getting back to our offices. But we're strong and moving forward, and that's something I'm grateful because 10 years ago I did get laid off from a company I love, and Randolph Brooks brought me in 10 years ago.
Great. We had got another question that is it acceptable to apply for more than one position with an employer? I think you had to cover that absolutely, right? Because especially you can't review it if they didn't apply for it.
Absolutely, and sometimes your requisition is being managed by a different recruiter, so it's going to be based on who applies for those requisitions. So answer absolutely yes.
Nice. And then how important are the references to an employer? And then should that contact information be listed on the resume or should it just be, upon request?
So it depends on the employer. I would say always have references that are available, but it depends on the employer. We do a background check, but references typically aren't part of that process.
Okay. Also, for the resumes, are they still active with the company's ATS even before, like, say, the pandemic? Say a candidate applied before all this happened. Would you
Yeah.
recommend that they reapply for something then?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, I would, and then I would take a look at your resume to see can you add to it. Did you do anything during the pandemic in the last 3 months that you need to include an update? Because you're going to get that question. So, what did you do? How did you move forward? How did you advance? How did you improve yourself? Those things will come up. So, if you need to upload and include those things in your resumes, by all means, I would do that.
Nice. This is also a favorite of mine. Of so once a candidate applies, again, what should they do? Is it okay for them to maybe call the employer to do like a follow up to say that they had recently applied and if they have any more maybe questions?
If it's been the same,
You're breaking up just a bit, Glenn.
yeah, okay. I would say yes. I would say yes. Please do follow up. I do say if it was a good interview and you felt really good and that's the impression they get, yes. And maybe it's the follow up saying, "Hey, where are you?" Maybe the follow up is, "Did you need any additional information? And if you need any, I'm available, or I'm still interested in the position." So I always encourage that as well, and I have no problem following up with you.
We actually had an alumnus that had done that where she had applied for a recruiting role and she hadn't heard anything yet. So when she called to follow up, it just so happened the person who picked up was actually the hiring manager. So they kind of started deep diving on her resume and asking further details. Like, you know what? I want you to come in and interview. There's some things I missed on your review, and why not? Especially the fact that she took that initiative, that it was really helpful for her.
I love that.
Another agreement about the phone message. I think I love when you mention that because I think it's something we really overlook so quickly. Like, oh yeah, voicemail is not that important, but know that employers, a lot of times that's our first line of communication. So it's really important to make sure that you have that great first impression.
First positive, memorable impression. Make me want to call you back. Yes, thank you. I've had professionals, HR professionals, that have reached out to me and say, "Hey, Glenn, I'm interested in positions. I can't, I'm not getting any calls, and when I call them, their voicemail isn't set up."
Mhm.
Come on,
Absolutely.
I mean, that's an easy thing for us to do. Yep.
And then I think we'll have time for one more. So, again, the applicant tracking is a tough system sometimes, right? Is there a preferred
Yep.
format, recommended format for the resume for it to go through? What's some tips on that?
Well, I've heard that some systems only allow the one document. So one system. I think a lot of the question is, is there going to be like a keyword search on my resume? We don't do that. I mean, we look at everything as submitted. I think Workday is a very it's a wonderful system. I will tell you that so many employers are using it. So we typically have not had any issues. But if you are having difficulty with getting your resume through, reach out to the HR department, and say, "Hey, I'm trying to upload my resume. I'm having difficulty." I would say that, as a reflection of the company, they want to help you out any way they possibly can. Remember, what we do as organizations is going to help you to say yes because you make the final decision. So don't hesitate to reach out if it's not working. Reach out to the HR professionals. We encourage it.
Well, thank you, Glenn, for a wonderful session. I always learn something new every time I hear you speak. So I very much appreciate just your wealth of knowledge. I know our students also do too.
Well, I will share this with you that I'm always excited to work with your team. We go back and we work together for such a long, long time. And again, my appreciation is to just to wish everybody much success in achieving their academic and career goals. Please know when you get the job, your job's not over. So what are you gonna do to keep your star rising? Getting the job is just half the battle. Now you want to grow. And again, please know my door is always open. This is my direct contact information. Never, ever hesitate to reach out to me. I am on LinkedIn. I respond. And if there's anything I can ever do moving forward, please let me know. And Clarissa, I know that internships and externships, those things are really challenging. Know that those that are on the call, we're working with some of the career services teams to move forward with that, to look at alternatives. So I think some really exciting things are in front of us, and please never hesitate to reach out to me. And I'm grateful and honored to work with you. And thank you on behalf of Randolph Brooks for allowing us to support your students. Much success. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Okay. Glenn, if you could advance to the next slide, please. So, Jaguars, again, don't forget to join us next week. We will actually be hosting a digital branding boot camp, kind of deep diving into LinkedIn, what kind of content you could post on there, how to really connect. There is a wealth of knowledge. I'm glad that Glenn had mentioned you can connect with so many people, especially our alumni base. This is
Absolutely.
something that they want to have conversations with you. I think LinkedIn's a great platform for that. We will actually be welcoming a speaker from Security Service on Wednesday, May 27th from 2 to 3 right here on WebEx. You can actually find the information for the login via JagSync, even Handshake. So please make sure to log in. Okay. And then don't forget to stay connected with the Mace Center. Even though we're working in a remote environment, we are still actively here to support you during this time, whether it's maybe for mock interviews, which again, practicing is so critical right now, especially for that virtual interview where maybe it's a different platform that you haven't actually had experience with just yet. How do we navigate the waters on that, or how to update your resume, how to conduct a job search? Our team is here again to support you through that. So you can get in contact us with through the Mace Center website, also via email. Also, check out all of our social media. Our social media team's been doing a phenomenal job making sure we can get
Absolutely.
this content out there to you. Again, this presentation will actually be added onto our YouTube library, in which you can find video sessions for like strength-based questions. Also, we have some graduate school admissions sessions. We even have financial literacy on there too. So please, please, please take advantage of it. Now, if anyone does have any follow-up questions at the end of this, I will be sticking around for a little bit. I know a few of y'all may have questions about JAG tracks, so please, you feel free to stay in the room, and I'll go ahead and stay a little bit longer. I know also, Glenn, we had one contact that they had an interest in maybe connecting with you directly. So again, we'll make sure that they have their information for you for that.
Fantastic. Please just email it to me. And, LinkedIn, just one thing, if you go and you see the wonderful things your career service center is doing, respond, like it, make a comment. Those are great, great things to do. It helps to grow your network and show that you are taking the initiative to move forward. Again, much success. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you on campus soon.
All right. Thank you so much and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.